It's just like, well, yeah, I used to be there, but let's forget about that. This is so much nicer. So this is the process. We first of all set the goal, and then we determine the steps leading to that goal, and then we simply do them one after another. It's very simple. But it requires some intelligence. It requires dedication, patience, enthusiasm, and most of all, knowledge. And this knowledge is given in the Vedic scriptures. So you have to read those books. I can't explain everything. We'd be here forever. There's too much to explain. And in the books, it's also presented very nice and systematically. So you should read Srila Prabhupada's books. You can download all this material from our site or read it online. There's so many videos, so many audios, so many books you can read. There's no lack of knowledge. And once you get this knowledge, if you put it into practical use, you get the highest benefit. Because everybody wants to be happy, everybody wants to be satisfied. But happiness and satisfaction are not available in this material world. There's always some defect, because remember, this world is temporary. So even if we get the things we want, we're going to lose them later on. That's just the way it is here. So we have to go back to the spiritual world to really be happy. And this is the process for doing that. So please take advantage. Make your life perfect. Hare Krishna. So now, are there any questions? Just a minute, Vikram. You had your turn before. Let's let somebody else ask questions. I know. No questions. Okay, Vikram, go for it.
If everything's external in the spiritual world, then how do people come like if everything was like first born on the material world and everything's like internal there, like it can never die from the spiritual world, then how did we all get here from the spiritual world?
That's not a very good question. Because the problem is not how we got here. The problem is, how do we get out of here? See? If you're drowning in the ocean, let's see you fall in the ocean and you're drowning, and somebody comes along on a boat, and they start going, "Oh, how did you get in there?" What are you going to say?
Because we fell in there?
You're far too reasonable. You're such a young boy. No, you're going to say, "Get me out of here! Help! Save me!" If you're drowning in the ocean, and somebody wants to say, well, please fill out this form in triplicate describing exactly how you fell in the ocean. Here's a pen. You're going to say, no, just save me, help. Isn't it? Okay. So the question is not how we got here. The question is, how do we get out of here? See? The soul is eternal. Yeah. So before being in this world, we were in the spiritual world. And Srila Prabhupada always said, somehow or other, we fell. And he never wanted to talk about that question, because we don't like to think about those things. We want to think about how to get out. We don't want to think, if somebody has a disease in the hospital, they don't sit there thinking, well, how did I get this disease? You know, it must have been that doorknob in the toilet, you know, or something like that. They don't think about that. They think, how can I get well? How can I get out of here? How can I go home? So that's our condition. We're diseased. We're like in the hospital. We're sick. So how do we get out of here? How do we get well? How do we go back home? That's the question that we should be asking. We already know we're in trouble. We already know we're suffering. So how do we get out of suffering? That's the real question. You have a question? Yes, devotional service. There's a question now? Pass the mic.
There's a question from Luciano. Please accept my humble obeisances, Babaji. When one achieves liberation, is it possible to come back and preach to take more souls back? Would this be compassion or a symptom of attachment?
Well, if you're attached, you're not going to get liberation. Liberation is only for those who are detached from the material world. So no, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, once they go to the spiritual world, they never come back. You know, like I said, if you were from a bad neighborhood and somehow you struck it rich and you got a nice place somewhere else, you know, you're not going to go back to the old neighborhood and like hang out with the boys, you know. You're going to be in your new, you know, at the country club. So once we get out of this material world and we go to the spiritual world, it's like, who would want to come back here? The spiritual world is so much nicer than this material world. But occasionally, Krishna will send one of his eternal companions to this material world just for that purpose. But the initiative comes from Krishna. You see, if Krishna wants us to come and serve by preaching in this material world, then okay, we can do that. But normally, the liberated souls don't want to come to this material world. They want to forget all about this material world. They don't ever want to come back. It's only those who have extreme compassion, like Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada is an ever-liberated soul. And he was specifically empowered by Lord Nityananda to spread this devotional service all over the world. So Krishna sent him. And from his very birth, even from his early childhood, he was arranging festivals for Krishna consciousness and so on. So we can understand that Prabhupada was not like us. He didn't ever have that material conditioning. He was always liberated. He was always perfect. It's called Nitya Siddha. Nitya Siddha means literally always perfect, eternally perfect. He never came in under the jurisdiction of this material world. And the symptoms are that he was able to spread this devotional service process all over the world in a very short time, only 10, 12 years. He had hundreds of temples, thousands of devotees, hundreds of books all over the world. It was in so many languages in so many countries. I mean, who can do that unless they're specifically empowered by God? It's not possible for ordinary human being. But generally speaking, the devotees, once they go to the spiritual world, they never come back. Another question?
Question from Mother Insi. Please accept my humble obeisances. Before Krishna
We miss you, Mother Insi. We wish you were here. Okay, go ahead.
Before Krishna was born 5,000 years ago, by whom God knowledge brought to the earth planet?
Oh, well, Krishna is just one in a long series of incarnations. And back for example, in the Satya Yuga, Krishna appeared as the Narayan Rishis. And in Dvapara, Treta Yuga, he appeared as Lord Ramchandra. In Dvapara Yuga, he appears as Krishna, and in Kali Yuga, he appears as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in every yuga, on every planet, in every universe, Krishna is appearing at many, many thousands and millions of incarnations. He says, Yada yada hi dharmasya bhakti Glanir bhavati bharata, that I come in every yuga to spread this devotional service. And he also says, I come to protect my devotees and to annihilate the rascals. So he comes again and again and again and again. And then in between the incarnations, you have the disciplic lineage coming down from Krishna or his incarnations through the line of self-realized gurus. And it's not only now that we have this. This parampara has existed since the beginning of the universe. In fact, our lineage is called the Brahma Sampradaya because it comes from Lord Brahma. And Brahma is the first created being in the universe. So that's how old this science is. It's very, very, very old. Nobody can understand this, but it's true.